Welcome to Carbon County Conversations. This is presented by Carbon County's Project Prevention, Carbon County Higher Education Center, and Memorial Hospital of Carbon County. Today we are going to learn about the tobacco survey. And Katrina, are you there and do you want to take it away?
Yes,
Perfect.
I sure can.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
We are good, and we have a few of us here in the room, and then we are also presenting this on Facebook Live.
Fantastic. So I'm going to take us a little bit through the secondhand smoke survey that we're working on. And am I able to share my screen? Yes, it will let me. Fantastic. I'm going to take us, we'll just do our whole screen. And start here. Okay. So here is our survey that we're working on. So in collaboration with the Carbon County Prevention Network, we're going to launch a parent perception survey, ultimately looking at assessing Carbon County's residents in their awareness of the dangers of secondhand smoke to specifically youth in the community. One of the best things about doing an awareness campaign is truly understanding where's the benchmark, right? Where are we sitting currently? And then how can we see what that looks like after the fact? So that's kind of where this survey comes in. It really will be a really great gauge that will tell us what does the community think of secondhand smoke and its risks to their youth currently, and then we can build a campaign that is educational around maybe thoughts or impressions of what that looks like currently and that need to be changed, or providing more facts and feedback to strengthen that already that awareness that's already there, if it is there already. The goal is that the survey will run for a total of 3 weeks. Our intentions with this survey is that it will live on Facebook. Facebook and Instagram are the best place to get in front of parents in regards to on social media. But then we also have been in works and talking with Tracy on working on getting this in front of the school district to see if they will partner with us to share this information. It will be a SurveyMonkey link, so it'll be really simple to be able to share that information. And then for members that are just interested in getting this on their own page, you guys can share that information during that time period as well. Once that 3-week time period of the survey going out and collecting that data, our team will then sit down and analyze the results and then create a comprehensive report that says, based off of the respondents that we had, this is our recommendations in regards to what our secondhand smoke campaign needs to look like specifically in Carbon County. And so we actually already have our survey questions here that have been approved. So we obviously like to start with basic demographics because that really helps us understand the respondents that are getting back to us, and it also helps identify if there's any segments that aren't responding to this, so that maybe we need to have a bigger conversation of, hey, let's say we have our 55 to 64 demographic didn't respond to this at all. How can we make sure that they have an opportunity to fill this out or get their input from this, right? So it gives us the opportunity to see if there's any gaps in the data that we collected. Additionally, it's good to know male, female, non-binary, preferred, still really good relevant information for us in regards to effectiveness of the survey. And then the first question we ask is ultimately just how many children do you have? From there, we really dig into perception of secondhand smoke exposure. So are you aware with the risks associated? We try to keep it very yes, no, because if you have very open-ended question, what ends up happening is that the data is too varied and it's really, really challenging to hone in on, is this a category we can work with or is it not? And it ends up becoming, I don't want to say a useless data point, but it makes it much more challenging to make good recommendations on, is this something that we need to build campaign information around or data around and content around, or is this not, right? Then from there, we do some scales of 1 to 5. So how harmful, with 1 being not harmful and 5 being extremely harmful, do you think smoking around your children is? So that's ultimately the first component to this. Then we really dig into knowledge base around secondhand smoking. So if you notice, the first bit here was perception of secondhand smoke exposure, and then it's really that knowledge base of what is the dangers of secondhand exposure. So again, this really helps us identify what is the community's perception on secondhand smoke, and then what is their knowledge of it. So do we need to have our campaign in regards to secondhand smoking really dictate by educating the true dangers, or educating the data that's out there, the science that's out there that supports why secondhand smoke exposure is dangerous to youths and individuals. And then ultimately, where do they get their information, right? So this is super helpful for us to really understand what are people leveraging as their subject matter expert. So if it's their healthcare professional and that's really where they're getting all of that information, that makes it really simple for us to be able to say that we need to be building toolkits for general practice providers, to urgent care clinics, to nurse practitioners, that's where we're disseminating this information, because that's where a large percentage of our population deems that information valid, right? Or is it from internet resources? What does that look like? Is it from friends and family, right? So based off of these answers, we can really dictate where's the best place for us to spend our dollars, to pool our resources, to get the best exposure that we can in regards to either changing perceptions or educating on what the data says. If there's data that tells us that we need to be changing perceptions or adding more education to the actual dangers of secondhand smoking. Questions on that?
Nope, I don't have any right now.
Fantastic. So again, kind of one of the cool things about doing this survey and allowing a 3-week time period, there'll be multiple posts that go out about it. But the nice thing about having this survey is, unlike most campaigns where we're ultimately just creating content that assumes that the community thinks one thing, right? This is us taking an opportunity, and what I was really excited about is that Tracy was so on board with that. We really want to see, what does the community think, right? So we can truly build content based off of your community's response, right? So if we're seeing that there isn't a lot of awareness about the dangers of secondhand smoking, then why would we build things that don't talk about that? And it just makes it so much easier to build relevant content that will then resonate with your community. And it won't take long to build that content. So it won't take very long from once the survey is completed to content then starting to be disseminated on the appropriate channels, again, based off of that survey data, so that we can make sure that people have seen these survey questions and responded to them will then hopefully very quickly then after be able to see content that says, hey, they took my feedback and did something with it, and now I can see these pieces out here. Any other questions or concerns in regards to the survey?
I don't think we have any questions at this time.
Okay, awesome. Is there any feedback on, I always like to go into survey pieces and just look at, what do we think as kind of community prevention, and when you're going into a survey like this, I always have like preemptive thoughts of what I'd like to see. When I look at where people get internet sources, so that very last question is kind of the one I want to dig into the most, is, I have a feeling that healthcare professionals and internet resources are going to be the 1 and 2. Do you guys have thoughts on where like friends and family member and stuff like that will land in regards to the survey?
I would say they're probably pretty low.
Non-existent.
Yeah, I would say, either non-existent or very, very low. I think just in the age that we live in now, most of the information that people get is from the internet. So I would bet the internet's probably actually going to be number 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, I don't disagree with that. And that's where ultimately it's super helpful. There's been a few surveys that have surprised me where it's ultimately I trust my healthcare provider. And so we've built those toolkits, which is why I like still building that in there. But I agree with you. I mean, most people WebMD themselves, right, before they even go see their provider. And they will have a lot of that background research going into it, and then also base their thought process off of their social feed, right? I think we can speak to a lot of different scenarios where kind of how things are trending in the world is what the common denominator of our people's thought process resonates with it. Awesome. Do you guys think that, again, thinking through like our category of questions of perception of secondhand smoking and then that knowledge of secondhand smoking side of things, do you feel that Carbon County's overall, and I know this is just, we're speculating, but that's my favorite part about talking about this prior to survey data, but speculating on that perception, do you feel that the community is going to be pretty on par with feeling that yes, there is an inherent risk with secondhand smoking?
I mean, I think so. Is this strictly for like cigarette smoke, correct? Or is it for like vape smoke as well?
Yep. It does actually show vaping inhalants, right, is how it's really worded, which is ultimately tobacco through cigarette format and also vaping.
Okay, so I think for like cigarette smoking, I think there's gonna be a lot of understanding and a lot of, like knowledge on that. But as far as like the vaping secondhand smoke, I think that that's going to be less.
Yep. And there's a lot of contradictory information on dangers of vaping that is out in the wild on the internet as well, right? And so I think that also creates a confusion for the general user that's trying to educate themselves on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. That was kind of our presentation specifically on the survey itself. I've got the survey that I can email out so that you guys can take a look at those questions. They are approved and we're ready to get rolling with them. So those pieces are stuff that we really want to be getting out before we get to the end of the school year, because obviously as we get into summer and stuff like that, we just aren't going to get really great responses on pieces, just because families and everyone get busy. So we really want to get this launched beginning of this month, so that or beginning of April, so that we've got all of the time to be able to get those results, do our analysis, and then have content launched ideally the beginning of May.
Nice.
Where are the responses going to go to? Are they just going to be emailed to you, or is it like a...
It goes into SurveyMonkey, so it'll collect all of that information. So the survey will be sent out in a hyperlink, so every social media post and then the information that we send to the school district will be a hyperlink to SurveyMonkey, so they'll open it directly on their phone or directly on their computer, however they're able to interact with the ad set that they'll see, and then they can fill the survey out right from there. As you saw, there aren't many questions. Our goal is that it can be answered in 3 at max 5 minutes, because that's really about the only time period that you're going to get to have people to respond to those things. And then it will auto collect the data. We will then do our analysis of that data with our recommendations of where ads should be placed and what type of language and messaging should be used with those ad sets based off of the data.
Alrighty.
Did that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Perfect.
Alright, well, with that being said,
Awesome.
Katrina, I think this will wrap up our little tobacco survey for today.
Perfect.
Thank you so much to
Fantastic.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you to everybody that logged on. If you have any questions at all, please write them down in our comments and we will get them out to Tracy and Katrina and get you an answer and get that back to you. Other than that, have a great day and we will see you next month at our next Carbon County Conversations.